Hello my dear software developers. Today I want to talk about test automation and more precisely about Playwright. So Playwright, it is a testing library similar to Cypress but much better than Cypress. It's made by Microsoft, and even if I am not a big fan of Microsoft, I have to admit that it's pretty good. So why it is better than Cypress? There are few benefits that it gives you. So first, you can write your tests not only in JavaScript, but in other languages such as Python, C#, and even Java. You also can run multiple browser tabs or windows, or even run few sessions with different users at the same time. And as we speak about the parallel test running, it comes for free out of the box with Playwright. And in Cypress, you have to pay for it separately. You have to have a premium subscription to use it. And parallel running is especially important for the speed of your tests. When you run them in CI/CD, you don't want to wait forever for them to run. And for better developer experience, you can use code generator that Playwright provides. So you can just go and record your actions on the website, and it will generate a nice code of your test for you. Of course, you'll probably have to review and edit it. It won't be perfect, but it is a good starting point. And as I said, Playwright made by Microsoft, and it has very good integration with VS Code. If you're using this IDE, you can install a Playwright extension. It helps you to visualize what's happening with your tests. You can see not only which test is running, but also which line of the code is running at the moment. And if there is a failure, it will also show you where is this failure. And you can also put the breakpoints right in your code in VS Code and see them when you're running your tests. And it's also very handy feature that I use pretty often when I'm writing tests. I hope now you're convinced to give Playwright a try, and if so, let's start. I'm not going to walk you through the documentation in this video because Playwright has very good and detailed docs, and you can go and read them yourself. Instead, I'm going to show you my real-life Playwright workflow. I'll show you how I write and debug my tests and which best practices I use. So if it sounds good for you, let's start. First, let's install our Playwright. We run this command yarn create playwright, and it will ask us a couple of questions like what you prefer to use, TypeScript or JavaScript. Just answer all the default answers, and it will create a project. It will create some demo tests, some examples for you. And the next thing we're gonna do is to go to extensions and search for Playwright here. And just click install. And here you'll get this icon, this little like chemistry funny icon that called Test Explorer, and you see all the tests here that you have in your project. So you can just run them by clicking this arrow, and it will run the test and it will open these test results. So it will tell you, okay, the test is passed. Or you can run it in the debug mode, clicking on this little arrow with a bug, and it asks, okay, allow notifications. So it would run tests in debug mode, opening the browser. I just want to show you. So you see it was very quickly, it opened the browser, it ran the test, and it closed the browser. You can also show browser, not to close it after the test is finished. So you see it passed, and it's still, the browser is still here, just in case if you want to see what's going on after your test is finished. It's useful for the debug and stuff. And you can also use show trace viewer and pick locator and all other stuff here. That is quite cool. So now let's write our first. So now we are ready to write our first test. So let's go to our files, and in these tests, let's create a new test. Let's call it login. So let's write our first test. For start, we can just copy this test from the example. But instead of playwright.dev, we're gonna test, let's say, Reddit. So let's replace it with reddit.com and let's try to run it. We can easily do it just clicking on this arrow. And you see Playwright opened Reddit in the Chromium window. But our test failed, of course, because it is expecting to find the Playwright text in the title of the page. So let's replace it with Reddit and let's run it again just to see that it works. So now it is passed, and you see I'm running it clicking on this little arrow, but I also could run it from here. And I have this checkbox show browser ticked, so it doesn't close the browser after the test is run. So if I untick it and run the test again, but after the test is finished, the browser is closed. So now let's change our test. We want to start testing with the login. So let's call it login. And to simplify a little bit our start, let's try to see how Playwright code generator works. So yarn Playwright code gen, and this command will open a browser window and another little window, Playwright Inspector. So in this window, you can see it is just like a boilerplate code for the test. And now we can just go here and type reddit.com. And you see here in this window, we got our first line of test. So now we're just doing something on the page, and our code generator will register all the stuff that is happening here. So we need our username and password. Let me just copy it. Username. So I copied my username and I'm entering the password and clicking login, and now we're gonna be redirected. And if we open our, I don't know why it always opened me Google. So if we open our test inspector, Playwright Inspector, you see there is a bunch of code generated, and some of it even is in iframe locator. So this login page is probably an iframe. And that's interesting. So you see Playwright generated for us this boilerplate code that we can just stop recording and copy and paste. It just copied the entire test, so I would delete this stuff and these brackets. So let's review what we got here. So it gets by role link and then with the name login and clicks on it. Then it goes to this locator and finds our input with a placeholder username and clicks on it. We actually don't really need this click, because even if we don't click and just use this fill, it will fill the input with a value. Then again click that we don't really need, and it fills the second text input with a password. Then it is again finds the button and clicks on it, and it is okay. This I guess we don't need. Now let's try and run it here. Yeah, so it goes to the pop-up and You see, when the internet is slower, it redirects us to the separate page instead of this pop-up /iframe thingy. And in this case, our test cannot proceed because these locators are different, the elements are different. So we don't want our test to be flaky because of the speed of internet or something else. I suggest us to change our approach and to go straight to this page to login. So it's gonna be a bit safer. So let's run our code gen again. And let's open the page. And let's enter our username. Yeah, so entering password, logging in, and now we can just open this window and copy this stuff. Now we're going to reddit.com login, right? We're going to find this get by placeholder. We don't need the click, we only need the fill one, and this is the wrong one. We need the one with my username. Then we delete this click because we don't really need to click anywhere if you want to fill. And I don't like this ugly placeholder, and I want to delete this, and I want to change it. I want to make it a regular expression, and make it one line. So it will get by placeholder that contains username. Same here. Turning it into a regular expression. And here, get by role, click, and let's write our assertion. It's gonna be expect, the keyword expect, that will expect something to be, let's say, to be visible. So here we need to put our element that we want to find. So if you go here, we are logged in and we have a bunch of stuff here. For example, we want to find an element that has text create post. So let's say create post button, and we want to find it. Page get by text create post, and then we expect this to be visible. So let's run our test and see what will happen. We can run it in the debug mode. Okay, it is complaining because it is expecting the title to be read with a capital, but it's getting it without a capital. So let's replace it and let's run again. And now it is complaining that it resolved to two elements. And what does it mean? It means that there are two elements here with the password. So it's here, it's a link password and a text box password. So we need to clarify what are we getting here, and we can change it. Can say get by role and get a text box or text input. What was there? Text box, yeah. So, and here we're gonna tell to text box with a name, password. Where I get this name, if you open this page and if you inspect it, you'll see that this element has a name, password. So we are telling it to find a text box with name, password, and fill it with our password. And we can, just to be on the safe side, to do it the same way here, to replace it with get by role and say that we want to find username. I just need to double check that this field has name, username. Yes, it has. So now we can try again. So as you see, writing tests, it's an iterative thing. Oh, it is passed now, so it is green. Now it's not enough just to make it pass. We can also try to make it fail. So I am just like putting here some random text and I'm running it. And I expect it to fail, and if it does not, then something is wrong. But it fails and it is fine, so I'm returning it back. That's our first test to check that user can log in. So that's it, that's our first test, and it is pretty straightforward. It's just like 10-15 lines, and it looks okay now, but when you will add more tests and more code, you will realize that you need to structure your code base, your test base, and extract the repeating pieces into separate classes and components. So that's what we're gonna do next. So stay in touch and see you in the next video.